Perfect. So I'll kick off then. So welcome to Hustings, and to all our candidates, congratulations on your first day of campaigning. Voting obviously opened at 10 a.m. this morning, so I hope everything's gone well on your first day and you're excited for the rest of the week. We've so far had 108 individual voters and 379 votes cast, which is a really fantastic start. So hopefully we can kind of maintain that as the week goes along. I'll start off just introducing myself for those of you I haven't met before. So I'm Toby, I'm Representation Coordinator at Arts SU. So my job throughout the elections period is kind of making sure everything runs smoothly in the setup, supporting candidates and facilitating kind of ways such as this that candidates can reach out to their peers and encourage them to vote. So Sharon and Lulu, did you just want to say a quick hello?
Sure, yeah. I can put my camera on, I think. Oh, no, I'm not allowed to put my camera on, but hi. My name's Lulu, my pronouns are she, they. I am an exhibitions and events coordinator at Arts SU. If you are at Camberwell, you might have seen me around. I used to be based there pre-COVID. And yeah, it's nice to see you all. But if you have any sort of technical questions or anything, I'll just keep an eye on the chat and I'll just be like updating Toby and that as you go. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you.
And Sharon, did you want to just say a quick hello?
Hiya, so I'm Sharon, yeah, just a member of staff at Arts SU, here to facilitate this hustings, and obviously the recordings that we take from today will be used to promote all the candidates who were able to make this hustings on their responses to some of the questions that will be asked. If you are an attendee, a student who's not one of the candidates running, please do feel free to submit a question in our Q&A function, and we'll do our best to try and include those in depending on when the question was asked in which segment of the 4 officer roles. But yeah, great seeing people voting so far. Don't forget to vote in the referendum as well. That's happening at the same time as elections, and best of luck to all candidates tonight.
Great, we'll kick off then. So for those of you who haven't attended a hustings before, the whole point in this is really to let students meet the candidates, to give the candidates an opportunity to say a quick hello and talk about why they're running and what they want to achieve in the role, and then to give you a chance to kind of do a little Q&A with them and ask any questions. So just some quick things before we begin. So if you do want to unmute yourself or put your video on, that's absolutely fine. If you're happy to leave your video off, that's fine as well. Please make sure to treat other candidates with respect and kind of the way that you would want to be addressed and everything like that. We are going to be recording this session today just so that any UAL students who haven't been able to attend can watch that back. And yeah, it goes. We do need to just say as a disclaimer before we begin that not all candidates in the election are able to attend tonight. So full candidate lists and manifestos are available on the website. So fantastic. So we're going to be kicking off with our activities officer candidates. So how this is going to work is you're each going to get 30 seconds to do kind of a quick little elevator pitch. So that's just to introduce yourself, maybe to outline your manifesto points, or just to kind of say a quick hello and the reasons you're running. So we'll give you each a chance to do that. And then we're going to go to questions. So any students, as Sharon said, who are here as attendees rather than candidates can pop a question in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom, and then we can kind of ask them out to the candidates. So the best way to do this is for questions to go to all candidates, so to give them all a chance to answer. So please try and pop questions in that all candidates can answer rather than ones directed to one specifically. Just to make sure that we are in keeping with time, because we've obviously got candidates for all 4 positions to get through in 2 hours, I will be kind of quite strict on the 30 seconds that you're given. So we'll be cutting you off if you've not rounded up by the end of that. It's also worth saying that candidates for any role can ask questions to students from the roles they're not running for. So if you're running for education officer and you've got a question for our activities officer candidates, you're more than okay to pop that in the Q&A. Great, so just going in alphabetical order, I know it's sometimes quite scary to be first, but we'll start with Amber. So yeah, you've got 30 seconds to say a quick hello and just kind of outline your manifesto points. So over to you, Amber.
Hello. My video won't start for some reason. Do you mind if should I just carry on without it?
Yeah, you're quite quiet. I don't know if you're on headphones, if you might want to unplug them and just use the speaker.
I'm not actually. Is that any better?
A tiny bit. We'll have to be quiet.
Sorry, is that any better? Sorry.
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Hello, everyone.
Great.
Sorry about that. And I'm part of the Red Square movement. I'm working alongside Alex and Shiada, and our main principles are that we want to continue with the protest of student rights in Quebec. And basically that means that the heart of our movement is to continue with student liberation. I intend to do that through diversifying the extracurricular activities and continuing with allowing our student union to nurture our education system to provide extracurricular opportunities that will deepen our employability and career prospects.
Great. I'll have to put you off, Amber, but thank you. That's fantastic. To start with, great. And as I say, you will have a chance in a little while to answer some questions as well. Next up, have we got Armani?
Hi there. Hi.
Hi.
It says I can't start my video because the host has stopped it.
Ron, I think you might have to just make sure that everyone's got video rights, if you're okay to do that while I go through.
I think it's in the settings at the bottom left-hand corner. I can't do it, but you can control who has video and doesn't.
1 second, Armani, I'll just see if we can fix that.
No problem.
If you're on any thoughts?
I can't seem to find the option of video. Bear with me for a second.
I think it might be near where you start your own video, where the arrow is, or in the chat along there on the left.
I've just
Let me
made
just
you
look.
Lulu, if you want to try and do that.
It normally does come up with like give video rights, but it seems to have disappeared. It will let me do it to Sharon, but no one else.
You can share. Oh, sorry, guys. Give me 1 second.
We might just have to carry on just to make sure we get through everyone. But you guys can keep looking. So great, over to you, Armani. Foster.
Armani's mic's not working now, so you might have to come back to Armani.
Okay. Armani, is it working now? I've just clicked the ask to unmute. Oh, that's a technical nightmare. Armani, is there like a pop-up coming up on your screen or anything asking you to unmute if I click that? No. Strange.
can we go to a different panelist and then come back?
Yeah, I don't know whether it's just for all candidates. Okay, Armani, we're gonna. Oh, she said she was gonna leave out herself. So should we go next to B? Hopefully, your mic will let you.
Is this working?
Yes, fantastic. Okay,
Brilliant.
30 seconds. Over to you.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Yep, cool. Hi, I'm B, final year fine arts student at CSM, and I want you to vote for me because I will create new mental health support. I will advocate for better collaboration between UAL colleges. I will increase UAL's accountability by integrating 4 sustainable development goals. I have 6 years experience at UAL, 2 of which I was president of the Equestrian Society. If you vote for me, no voice will be left behind.
Fantastic. Thank you, B. That's great. Next up, have we got Katya now?
Yes, hello, can you hear me, see me? Good?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Katrinel. I am part of the Art Attack slate. I'm currently a BA Interior Design student, final year, and my main priorities as your activities officer next year are to connect you with other students from art and design universities across London, as well as create networking events in the city, as well as all worldwide through online networking. Nevertheless, inclusivity and accessibility are the top of my priority list, and I want to push more funding in that direction.
Fantastic. Thank you, Katya. That's great.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll come back to you in a bit for some questions. Next up, have we got Hannah?
Hello, can you hear me? I've got a weird background. I can't get rid of it, but
That's great.
okay, can I go?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Hannah. My pronouns are she, her, and I want to be your activities officer because I'm really involved in the student community. I represented students on many levels, and I already understand the operations of the SU as a sports club president and as a current college officer. I want to improve student communities and make activities and clubs more affordable and accessible, promote more of a range of opportunities and events across UAL, and set up a materials exchange initiative to make materials more affordable and sustainable and ensure that graduates are supported beyond graduation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hannah. That's great. So we're going to circle back around next to Armani. Will it let you unmute yourself now?
Yes, it's working now.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Hi, can everyone see me?
You.
Great. So hi, so my name's Armani. I'm a third year student at LCC, and obviously I'll be running for activities officer. My main aims for this year are to increase visibility and inclusivity within our sports and societies, which I have been involved in for the last 2 years. I would like to push for funding on more student-led initiatives. I'd like to lobby for a degree show and focus and continue my work on anti-racism training, which stems from me founding the campaign to end racism at UAL. And I'd also like to improve access to mental health services for home and international students.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Armani. You did such a fantastic job of keeping to time. Okay, great. So we've got one question so far, which is fantastic. So while we're kind of letting the candidates answer that one, if any of the rest of you, either candidates for other positions or just student attendees, want to pop a question in the chat, we can ask that next. So the first question is, what have you done during your time at UAL that will help you in the role? And that's from Sally Barton. So Amber, we're going to come to you first. Again, you've got 30 seconds, but don't feel like you have to use the full time. If you feel like you can say what you need to in less time than that. Great, over to you, Amber.
Great. So within UAL, my experience is mostly down to me being a student rep. I did that in my first year, and now also during third year I have been quite actively campaigning for the students for compensation, extensions for deadlines and no detriment policies, and basically being the liaising with the senior management. I've just finished a meeting with David Crow now, actually, which is interesting. But then external to that, external to UAL, my experience reaches out to working with Extinction Rebellion and lots of education groups abroad, doing study abroad schemes and working on group collaboration and working with things such as working on the migrant crisis, I believe.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amber. That's great. So next up, we've got Armani. If any of you do want me to repeat the question at the start of you talking, just let me know, and I'm happy to do that. Armani, over to you.
Hi there, hi. So the question was, what experience do you have in the last Yeah.
Yeah, so what experience do you have during your time at UAL that will help you in the role?
Okay, so I have been the president of 2 societies, the first being African Caribbean Society, and the second being Arts Dance, which is kind of society and club, I guess, at the same time. And throughout those times, I arranged multiple events. For ACS, I arranged over 13 events within the 2-month period, and collaborated with other universities and outside partnerships. For Arts Dance, I stage managed the annual showcase. So it's just giving me a chance to work a lot with students. Outside of that, as I mentioned earlier, I founded it. Go on, no problem.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Next up, have we got B?
Oh, so I started at UAL in 2015. I've got experience of 4 different courses at UAL: the Foundation in Art and Design, the BA in Fine Arts, Diploma in Professional Studies, and Diploma in Creative Computing. I've been 2 years consecutive president of the Equestrian Society. I'm currently working for the Student Union as a student arts programmer, and I'm a course rep. And all of these experiences give me an opportunity of seeing a wider UAL than just my college.
Great, thanks, B. That's fantastic. Next up, we've got Katrina.
Yes, hello. So my biggest achievement in UAL to date is changing the assessment criteria, having been elected the Learning, Teaching, and Assessment Criteria Student Representative. I have been a course student rep for 2 years. I have been the part-time Chelsea officer last year, and I'm currently the events coordinator for the Drama Society. Hence, I have quite a wide understanding of the students and what they want and representing them and their needs on all levels. And yeah, I've interacted with a lot of students and it's been great, and I want to do it in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Katrina. That's great. And finally, we've got Hannah.
Hello. So I've been at UAL for 4 years, since foundation when I was commuting, and then I moved to London to be a full-time student. So I've got quite a well-rounded experience as a student representative in different roles, from course rep to ambassador, and now I represent students in various college level meetings and various academic meetings, and organise events for Chelsea students. I'm currently working on a panel for that. I've been a member and president of kind of multiple sports clubs and societies. I'm currently president of UAL Climbing, and that's been sort of doing everything from
I'll have to cut you off there,
okay.
I'm afraid. Thank you. That's great, Hannah. Fab. So the next question we've got is from Prachi, who is a candidate running for a different Tabaxco officer role. And Prachi wants to know, what have you done during your time at UAL to make it more inclusive for non-white students? So first of all, we will go to Amber.
So I think at the moment, the majority of things I've done is mostly dependent on my course rep situation, where throughout these communications, I've had a really specific specific focus on helping international students, because I feel that the coronavirus has highlighted the disparities. So if I was elected as your activities officer, I'd like to continue to really focus and interrogate the UAL's higher sectors and senior management to rebalance.
I will have to call it there, I'm afraid. Thanks, Amber. Okay, great. Next up, we've got Armani.
Hi there. So what I've done is, as I've previously mentioned, I founded the End Racism at UAL campaign, which started last summer during the Black Lives Matter protests. During this time, we campaigned profusely over online, and we managed to get ourselves into meetings with governors. Our petition online got over 10,000 signatures, and since then, we've been continuing to do the work, which I would love to carry on as activities officer.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Armani. Next up, we've got Dee.
Hey, so as president of the Equestrian Society, and I've managed to budget together with my treasurer, we've always used the budget to lower the costs as much as possible, to be as inclusive as possible with most students. And I've also been taking part at decolonizing events that the arts union, the arts program has been making to inform myself better as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, B. Next up, we've got Kasia now.
Yes, hello.
We're all pros at this now. You're so quick.
Yes. So for the assessment criteria, this had in mind all the students from all backgrounds and all financial situation and cultural situations, trying to make it more understandable for people that do not speak English natively. So this was my priority when pushing for the assessment criteria. Nevertheless, Drama Society is inclusive, and we have pushed for inclusivity from the very first day. And outside UAL, I have been part of the Black Lives Matter protest, but obviously it is not within the university.
Great, thank you, Katrina. And next up, have we got Hannah?
Yeah, hi. So I am president of UAL Climbing, as I mentioned, and we really try to open out all of our events to everyone, but I recognise that I think there's a bit of a disparity in terms of our current membership. And so, you know, this year I've been trying to work on alternative ways of making the sport more inclusive. So I'm putting together a speaker at the moment who will probably be from a non-white background. And I'm also working on creating a panel for CCW, which is likely to kind of be lots of diverse speakers as well, and also working with the creative manifesto.
Okay, good. I'm afraid.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's great you've all got such a lot to say. Great. So next up, we've got a question from Siada, who is running for campaigns officer, and they want to know what material changes have you brought to UAL? So if there's one thing you've worked on, which is kind of a really big project that's really enacted change, what would that be? So first of all, over to Amber.
Hi, so I've worked quite a lot alongside Pause or Pay and Action UAL, which our goal has been to encourage frequent communication between the staff and students, but also to actually really engage students in understanding that their rights and that they do have consumer rights within the education market. Then further than that, I think it's just been really important to basically kind of focus on showing solidarity between the students and reminding us that together we are actually stronger, and bring together a collective action through that as well.
Great, thank you, Amber. Next, have we got Armani?
Hi there. So not to obviously repeat myself, but one of the biggest projects was my petition, which led to the anti-racism strategy, which is a live working document full of actions that would lead to the sanction of racial injustice and racism within the university, which is actively bringing change. So that's including like anti-racism training and decolonizing the arts. It's just actively kind of like working with students and teachers to make it a safer place for underrepresented, marginalized and students of color. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you, Armani, that's great. Next up, have we got B?
Yep, so I've been working on smaller scale. So with the Equestrian Society, we've made a big point about advocating mental health. So in the past 2 years, that has been our main focus, but we've also been able to integrate bucks, so have this competitive aspect to it. And in a smaller, again, course sense, I've been building new options of websites for degree show.
Great, thank you. Next up, we've got Katya now.
Yes, hello. So as a material change, I'm going back to the assessment criteria because you're obviously operating as a course now on the 5 criteria rather than the 8 that were beforehand. Also, I have made Chelsea a bit more sustainable. We have changed the bins and the way we operate the trash in the building. Obviously, now we are not there. I have also changed the Wi-Fi in Chelsea last year because it wasn't great. And so I lobbied for more finance in that direction. And for my course, I lobbied with my course leader so that we put lockers.
To call it an end there, I'm afraid. Thank you, that's great. And next up, have we got Hannah?
Hi, yeah, so as college officer at the moment, I set up a forum for Chelsea students. And this is just an opportunity for students to connect online, specifically within that college, because I think you know, especially this year, it's really important for students who maybe don't live in London or who are commuting or have started their course this year, to be able to connect with each other, because they've really missed out on the social opportunities of being in college. And that's meant that I've been able to publicise events and opportunities in creative opportunities online.
I have to get you off there.
Yeah.
I feel nasty doing this. You're all doing so well. I hope you're okay there, Hannah. Hopefully we'll have her back in just a moment. Okay, so the next question is from one of our student attendees. And they have asked, could the candidates go into detail about the specific events they have organised within societies or other roles you've been involved in, and the success of those events outside of societies? So maybe the impact that it's had on students and why it was important that you did that. So first of all, Amber, over to you.
I mean, I'm going to start this by saying I haven't actually been involved in any societies. However, on a course level, I frequently, again, as I previously mentioned, I really enjoy keeping people engaged and creating a sense of community spirit. So I've quite often taken up the curatorship roles during exhibitions, and really ensure that there's a strong sense of communication between these different people, which I think then has continued throughout that, and reflected into the course and taught people how the role of communication in solidarity and making something bigger than your collective self.
Not so quiet there, I'm afraid. That's fantastic, thank you. Next up, have we got Armani?
Hiya. So
Hey.
as I mentioned before, I've produced over 13 events for students at UAL over the last 2 years. Off the top of my head, we produced a cultural food festival where we fed over 250 students. We had a cinema screening of a premiere film, which we worked with the film production company in order to give students a chance to see the film for free. And a fashion talk we held with an editor from British Vogue that I managed to collaborate with. And afterwards we arranged a networking session so that students could get advice from them. So yeah, that's just some of the things that I've done.
Fantastic, great, thank you, Armani. Next up, we've got B.
So with the Equestrian Society, I think the most important events we've had so far have been during lockdown. So throughout lockdown, we've had these lecture series in term 1 about horse riding. And then in this new term, we've been having weekly Equipilates, which are actually free for all. So if you ever want to join us on a Wednesday evening, please do. And this has increased, has been really good for mental health for our people.
Thank you, B. We've got Katya now.
Hello, so as the events coordinator of the Drama Society, I have lobbied for a lot of opportunities for our students. Some of our members have been selected for graduate movies. Some of our members got paid opportunities for playwrights and also festivals, which is really exciting. We have also collaborated with Future Maker Society and Book Club Society, trying to expand our network and also the way we think. And yes, we have been part of some festivals for playwriting and drama.
Perfect, thank you, Katya. And finally, we've got Hannah, who I hope is okay after a nasty laptop fall.
I'm sorry, I dropped my laptop. Sorry, so the question was what?
So the question is, let me just get that up. Oh, sorry, my computer's having a moment.
Oh, yes.
So it's, could you go into detail about the specific events you've organised within societies and kind of the wider impact of those?
Okay, yeah, so climbing this year, we've really tried to kind of keep the club going despite the fact that we haven't been able to access any kind of facilities. So we've instead put on social events like a quiz and a games night, kind of pub quiz, but also kind of non-alcohol quiz. Things like a Netflix evening and just Zoom catch-ups and just general socials. And then earlier in the year, you know, I've single-handedly organised trips to France and kind of trips just around the UK for people to be able to socialise and climb outdoors. And yeah,
I'll have to call it there, I'm afraid. That's perfect, thank you. Okay, great. So you've all done such a fantastic job, and you've all really clicked onto kind of how it works so fast. You're all on faster than I can even tell you you're up next, which is great. So finally, I'm just going to give you all kind of 30 seconds again, just to do kind of like a closing comments and say any last words to any students who might be watching. So Amber, if you'd like to go first.
Right, so I think overall I would like to have a focus on sustainability, inclusivity, and encouraging diversity, which I'll do through the activities that I set up. I will start with the student magazine, which will create our opportunities, because I believe an important tool is to learn how to create our own positions within society.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amber. Up next, and we've got Armani.
Hi, yeah, so I guess I'd just like to close with saying that a lot of the work I've already done is really student facing. So the things that I'll be working through if I was elected activities officer are helping students be represented, working with sports and societies, and just really working on events and getting the things that students need done, and working with campaigns and petitions to speak for the student voice and be the representation that they need. Thank you.
Up next.
Sorry. So first of all, I just wanted to say how inspired I am to work alongside so many talented people. But to wrap everything up, if anyone wants to get in touch, I try to make myself as available as possible, and it will continue if you vote for me for activities.
Perfect. Thank you, B. We've got Kasia now.
Yes, hello. So again, my top priority for next year as the activities officer is to improve student and professional networking in London and beyond London. Accessibility and inclusivity are the top of my priorities, and I think my experience in student-facing roles throughout my 3 years here at university recommend me for this role. Nevertheless, I'm also part of the Art Attacks, and I hope you guys will vote for us because we want to work as a team and promote diversity.
Perfect. Thank you, Kasia now.
Thank you.
And finally, we've got Hannah.
Hi, yeah, so I think you should vote for me because I'm already really involved in the student community and I have loads of experience in various roles at UAL and in the SU, and I already understand how it all works and what students want. And I want to improve communities, which is particularly vital right now, promote more events, improve sustainability, and ensure that graduates are supported in the future. And you can follow me at Hannah for activities.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. So we're going to wind up activities there. So thank you so much to our great candidates. Those were some really good answers. And I think the UAL students have really got their work cut out for them in deciding who to vote for. So thank you to you guys. Sharon, if you wanted to promote the panelists for campaigns officer to the panel, please.
Might need just a minute of sort of like interval music.
If I get my Alexa on it. Feel free, everyone, to take a second to grab a glass of water or stretch your legs, and we'll come back in a moment. Activities officer, guys. I don't know if you can. Oh, there we go. Fab.
Great. Just going to put the campaigns officer candidates in now.
Oh, pardon me.
I think that is everyone that's in the. If you are running the campaign officer candidate and I haven't put you in, please do message. I think I've put.
Yeah, I think that's everyone. So just before we begin, just want to check everyone who's on the panel now is comfortable with the process and doesn't need anything explaining about what we're about to do. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Fabulous. Yeah, so in the, oh, could you go over the process? No worries. So we're going to start off by each giving you 30 seconds to introduce yourself and introduce your manifesto and campaign. We're then going to go to questions. So any students here on the that aren't on the panel can submit questions, and we'll then give each of you a turn to answer that. If you're running on a slate with anyone or you know anyone, candidates in other categories, they're okay to ask questions too. And then finally, so we're going to do that for about 20 minutes, and then finally we'll give you each half an hour to just kind of summarize what you've talked about and your last thoughts. So are the questions the same for each officer role? No, so for each role we'll be taking questions from when we begin. So kind of from now, any questions that are submitted will go to the campaigns officers. Great. Okay, so we'll kick off. You've each got 30 seconds to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about kind of why you're running and what you want to achieve. So we'll start off with Justin.
Oh, there we go. I'm unable to start my video. Oh, I'm just going to do it without video. That's fine. Yeah. All right. Hi, my name is Justin South. My pronouns are he, him. I'm running for campaigns officer. Primary to my manifesto slate will be to get a satisfactory COVID response from the UAL administration, which mostly involves monetary compensation for students. I will also make sure to keep hate speech out of the university, and it's key to involving intersectional voices at all levels and involving representation of all marginalized minorities. I'm currently the
I'm
LGBT...
going to have to cut you off there, I'm afraid, Justin. It's hard, isn't it, to get so much in so quickly. Fab. Next up, we've got Cairo.
What's up? Can you guys see me? Sweet. Okay, my name is Cairo. I am second year BA photography. I'm this year's course rep as well as this year's trans officer. My main aims for, like, you know, as campaigns officer would be to center Black people of Black people of color, trans and disabled artists, because I feel like our voices need to be amplified and have mandatory staff training in terms of that covers accessibility, inclusivity, and also have more gender neutral toilets across all campuses.
I'm gonna have to cut you off there, I'm afraid, but that's a perfect intro. Thanks, Cairo. Next up, we've got Prachi.
Hey, I'm Prachi. Can you see me, by the way?
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
cool, sick. Hey, I'm Prachi and I'm in a slate with Armani. I'm a final year student at LCC and have been a changemaker, part founder of the Decolonizing the Wikipedia Network, and a recurring course rep, and a campus rep, and a peer mentor. As Armani mentioned, my main goal also includes making UAL inclusive and accessible for every student and empower every individual that comes in and out of UAL.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prachi. That's great. And finally, we've got Shahada. Please do correct me if I haven't said that correctly.
I'm really sorry, but yeah, it's Shahada.
Shahada, no worries. Thank you for letting me know.
No worries.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Shahada. I'm graduating from LCF this summer, running with the Red Square slate. I'm the current chair of Philosophy UK and co-chair of Action UL. I'm running for campaigns officer because I believe in the power of collective organizing and the immense change that we can make when we work together. I pledge to work towards pandemic compensation, support for student campaigns, greater transparency and democracy at UAL, international student safeguarding, and student staff solidarity. UAL belongs to students, and we'll work on it together.
Fantastic, thank you. Great. So we haven't had any questions yet, so I'll come with one of my own. But yeah, just wanted to remind all attendees, especially if you're running on a slate with a candidate, you might want to pop a question in the chat. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask is, what is your single most important priority, and what kind of, if you're elected, will be your goals to get in there? So if there's one thing you want to achieve as campaigns officer, what would that be? So first of all, we're going to go to Justin.
Hi. For me, my number one priority would be to ensure that the voices of the most marginalized intersectional communities at UAL are heard and represented. This recently came to a head with the transphobic speaker who was invited to speak at UAL. And so it's important to make sure that the voices of underrepresented minorities are centered.
Thank you, Justin. Next up, we've got Cairo.
So my main aim, like university-wide, is to definitely have like more transparency in terms of where UAL's fees and finances are going to, and like just in less like university wise would be to host events that center like marginalized communities, because I've got like a lot of experience doing that, as well as having mandatory training for all staff so that they can unlearn their like transphobia, homophobia and racism, and you know,
Just
kind of
call you there, I'm afraid.
Nice.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Next up, we've got Prachi.
Hi, so my main priority, as it should be for everyone, is to increase inclusivity and representation throughout university. I aim on doing that by continuing mandatory anti-racism training and decolonizing training that I've been working on, and just making sure that the attainment gap within students and staff is the main topic of conversation around university.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prachi. And last but not least, we've got Shahada.
Yes, my main goal will be financial compensations for students, but that is a national organizing aim. For UAL, I aim to help students organize and help students get into organizing, because you know this year has proven that universities put profits over people. There can be no action taken unless students know how to organize it themselves. Petitions have failed, complaints go unheard for months, and this has been the case at UAL in the past. And nothing works unless the people work. We move together as a movement. We don't move together individually. So organizing is my main goal.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. So we've got loads of questions coming in now, which is fantastic. So the first one we're going to go to is from Sophie. And Sophie has asked, what experience of previous or recent campaigns have you played a key part? What experience of previous recent campaigns that you have been a key part of can you bring to the role? Sorry, I got myself tongue-tied there. So yeah, talking about any campaigns you've been involved in recently and how they will benefit you if you are elected. So we'll start with Justin.
Hi, so I'm currently the LGBTQ+ part-time student officer at UAL. I organised a wellbeing talk and also the first ever LGBTQ+ artist showcase. In the past, I've been involved with the London Bi Pandas, who raised over £20,000 for trans and struggling minority groups during the first lockdown. I've also raised £500 myself for the Outside Project, which is an LGBTQ+ homeless shelter in the United Kingdom. And I've run numerous events as a drag performer throughout London. So I'm well versed with events.
Thank you, Justin. That's great. Next up, we've got Cairo.
So I'm this year's trans officer, and I've been hosting a makeup social event and just kind of keeping on the loop trans students and non-binary students by offering a safe space for them to talk about their feelings and experiences. I also have experience in running mental health campaigns in my previous college, just to increase like funding for counselling and mental health services. And yeah, like this is pretty much it, but I've been really like passionate about mental health and just overall taking care of every student.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. That's great, thank you. Next up, we've got Prachi.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? It was a bit fumbled at the
Yeah,
start.
of course. So it's what experience of previous recent campaigns that you've been involved in can you bring to the role?
So I've been involved in decolonizing the arts from its grassroots, and I'm currently running the Decolonizing Wikipedia network, which includes finding ways to make Wikipedia pages for underrepresented and misrepresented practitioners. And so that is something that I can carry forward with me. And I've also been involved in every other campaign that aims at inclusivity, including campaigns from third world countries to bring to the UK to make sure everyone is heard.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prachi. And then we've got Shahada.
Hi, yes, as you would have known, I run Positive UK and I also co-chair Action UL. I've done way too many things, I think. We have submitted formal complaints. I've negotiated with regulatory bodies, including the Office for Students and the OIA. I know how to work with students. I know how to run meetings. I know how organizing works. And I know how to bring people into the movement. So I think that would help me as campaigns officer, because I think a crucial part of the role is also training up other people to be able to run their campaigns as well.
That's great. Thank you, Shahada. And next up, we've got a question from another student who's here tonight, Isaac. And Isaac wants to know, what will you do to support those students who are behind on their degrees due to lack of studio access? Great. So first of all, we will go to Justin.
Hello. Yeah, this is obviously a really important issue and part of the satisfactory COVID response that I'll be fighting for as campaigns officer, not just monetary compensation for students, but allowing students extra time into the studios. It's an issue for me personally at the moment. I'm a fashion pattern cutting student and I haven't been able to get into the studio either. Obviously, this is much worse for international students and for things like master's students, final year students. So this will be high on my list of priorities to get more access.
Thank you, Justin. Next up, we've got Cairo.
Hello, I would definitely campaign to increase studio access during the summer term and just like hold UAL accountable for, just denying access to studio space for all students. I feel like that's very important, as well as obviously monetary compensation, so that you guys can have access to the studio and afford a studio space even after you graduate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cairo. Next up, we've got Prachi.
Hi, so obviously financial compensation is something that we're all fighting and rooting for, but alternative appropriate studio spaces is also a good way. I've been ongoing conversation with course leaders to find ways to make international students find studio spaces that are good for their course and funding that from UAL. So that's a way that students can actually help forward their degree without actually having to be in London or regardless of where they are in the world.
That's great. Thank you, Prachi. And we've got finally Shahada.
Hi, yes, thank you for this question. It's a very important question. It's actually one of the demands outlined in the Action UAL open letter to our Vice Chancellors. We are currently fighting for extended studio access when it's safe for alumni as well as current students. We are also fighting for more materials provisions for students on courses, just so that they can carry out their practice at home. We're seeing some wins on a course-based level, but we want these wins to be as a collective. We don't want individualized solutions. We want solutions for all.
Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Okay, so next question. Great. So we've got a question next from B. So what are your plans to make UAL more sustainable? So first off, again, we will go to Justin.
Hi, so I think at the heart of sustainability needs to be a message that accounts for societies other than Western society. It's one thing to mean sustainability for the West, but that means something completely different for other countries. For me as a fashion student, that comes to like with the kind of resources we use, what we do with our leftover materials. And these are projects that do exist outside of the university, and it will not be hard to link up with other people who are already doing this work.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Cairo.
Hi there. In terms of making UAL more sustainable, I would like to create or have at least one college plastic free by the end of my course. So by the end of the year as a campaigns officer. And that includes just instead of selling plastic water bottles, having more water fountains and just very practical actions that we can make for small steps towards a full sustainable university.
Great. Thank you, Cairo. Next up, we've got Prachi.
So previously, I've proposed a campaign to university as part of my course, which has been carried forward a little bit. Sorry for my language, but it's called Fuck Plastic. So we found ways to we have an outline way of how the cafes and the canteens can actually avoid plastic and reuse everything. And that is one step towards sustainability, but it's an ongoing conversation which will include finding ways to reuse materials at the workshop spaces, like Justin mentioned, and trying to make sure that all the universities are using materials that can, all the campuses.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, I'm afraid.
That's all right.
Thanks, Raji, that's great. And then we've got Shahada.
Yes, I intend to work, sorry for the mic problems. I intend to work with the Climate Emergency Network at UAL, and I intend to work with colleges on a college-based level, which is very important. So this is a reminder for you to vote in the referendum as well. I do think sustainability also goes beyond environmental sustainability. We need to rethink ways that UAL works. We're currently working at a pace which is completely unsustainable for both staff and students. So we need to rethink the ways the institution operates just as well.
Perfect, thank you, Shahada. Okay, so we've got time for one more question and then the summaries. And I've got two more questions from students, so I'm going to kind of combine them. So can you talk a little bit about what to expect from you if elected? So how are you going to implement your manifesto? So first up again, we have Justin.
Hi, so yeah, as currently the LGBTQ+ students officer, I've been heavily involved with liaising with people in the Students' Union and staff, and I'll be able to continue this work as a full-time officer, because currently I'm trying to do it alongside my studies. It's been really enjoyable working with the Students' Union. It's a great bunch of people, and I'm really excited to get more involved and have more time to dedicate to this.
Great, thank you, Justin. Next up, we've got Cairo.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. So it's, can you talk a little bit about what to expect from you if elected, and how will you go about implementing your manifesto?
Okay, perfect. So to start with, I'm a very charismatic person, so I know how to talk to people, how to talk to students, as well as professional staff. As a course rep, I'm already talking to LCC senior level management, and we're in talks in terms of having, like, you know, UL's finances and just like more clarity around those, the finances and how our money's going, where our money's going to. So what you'll be expecting from me over the summer, if I'm elected, I will be working on the mandatory staff training. So creating like a list of workshops that we can actually implement.
I'm gonna have to cut you off there, I'm afraid.
No worries.
Fab. We've got Prachi.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sure, no worries. So it's, can you talk a little bit about what to expect from you if you're elected, and how will you go about implementing your manifesto?
So you can expect your voices actually being heard from me, when, as I know that has been a problem in the student union in the past. As I'm a peer mentor, I'm currently being paid at university to talk to the deans every day. I'm pretty sure I know how exactly to talk to people. And you can see from me, you can expect active changes and not just campaigning for them, but actually making them happen.
That's great. Thank you, Prachi. And we've got Shahada.
Hi, yes, my manifesto is actually on the way to being implemented because I'm working with Pay and nationally in student organizing for this thing to happen. To expect from me, please expect a lot of communications from me, a lot of engagement, because we want your voices to be heard. We want you to be at the forefront. At the moment, I'm currently organizing an organizing school, which is happening end of April. There are negotiations underway for financial compensations. There are fee strikes going on. Big up Goldsmiths. So that's all the time I have, actually.
Perfect. Thank you, Shahada. That's great. Okay, so yeah, thank you all for your answers. Really looking at kind of the breadth of campaigning, because I know that this role is the one where you can kind of take it anywhere. There's no specific route you have to go down. So yeah, really, really excited about all of the different things you've discussed. Finally, we're going to give you 30 seconds just to kind of round up, say any closing statements and your goodbyes. So for this one, I'm going to switch it up and start with Prachi, just because I know that they have to leave and be somewhere else for 6. So yeah, Prachi, over to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Actually, I'm just stressing about time right now. So as mentioned again and again by me and Armani, our slate is looking to put inclusivity and representation at its forefront. And honestly, I don't even want to talk about what changes you can see. I've already made changes in the past at UAL that are being currently implemented. And if you vote for me, you will actually be able to see everything in my manifesto happen. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Raji. I hope you've given you time to get to your next engagement. Great. Next, we've got Justin.
Hi. So if you go to lgbtqstudentsofficer.artssu on Instagram, you can see the work I've done there. If you go to Justin4Campaigns on Instagram, you can see the work I will be doing and also the work I've done in my drag career as a performer. This includes all the fundraising things I've done. This is the kind of energy that I will bring to this role when I have the time to dedicate my full self to it.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin. That's great. Next up, we have Cairo.
Hello. Just want to say thank you for paying attention and listening. I know that, it's not really easy to pay attention on a Monday afternoon. So thank you for being here. I can't wait to see you again soon. And I just want to say that I'll make sure that your voices are being heard and amplified and no one feels left out, because we're all in this together. And yeah, I'll pop in my IG so you can see more about my work and how I've been facilitating workshops and just helping other people to get into photography and other things. So thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you, Cairo. That's fab. And finally, we've got Shahada.
Hi, yes, I wanted to thank everyone for coming to the Hustings and asking us amazing questions. I believe hope is a discipline. I believe in the power of collective organizing, and I want to thank UAL students for engaging directly with the grassroots organizing happening at UAL. I'm looking forward to working with everyone, so do vote for me, vote for the Red Square movement as your first choice vote so that we can carry on the work together and win. Feel free to message me on Instagram at Shahada for Campaigns Officer. And before I go, please complete the UAL action survey at bit.ly/action UAL survey. I'll put the links in the chat. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Shahada. Okay, great. So yeah, thank you to all our wonderful campaigns officer candidates. You all have given some really great answers there, and we're really excited to see your campaigns over the coming week. Great. So next up, we are going to go to Education Officer. I am going to grab a quick glass of water. So yeah, feel free to take kind of 2 minutes to just stretch your legs and grab a drink. And we'll see you back in 2 minutes to kick off with Education Officer. Sharon, are you okay to organise the panel?
Yeah, I'm just getting myself a glass of water.
No worries. One minute for everyone to come back. We'll just start adding our Education Officer candidates into the panel. Alyssa.
Oh, you've added them in for me. I was, like,
I was
trying
trying to go from the bottom while you went from the top. We've got Leon.
Just making them co-hosts so that candidates can show their videos, just because we were having problems with that.
No worries.
Yeah, just
tell me when we're ready to go. So yeah, just before we get going again, does anyone want anything explaining? Are we all kind of comfortable with how this is going to work? Yeah, if you've got any questions before we kick off, feel free to raise them now. And if you are a, I don't think there is any, but if you are an education officer candidate and you've not been popped into the panel, do just let us know in the chat and we can put you in. Great. Are we there, Sharon?
Just 10
about.
seconds.
No worries.
Click on everyone to be able to have video access.
As with before, first off, we're going to give you each 30 seconds to just kind of introduce yourself to your peers at UAL and just kind of say why you're running and what your campaign is all about. So first off, we'll go to Alyssa. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yeah, it's great.
Good, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Alyssa. I'm a final year BA animation student. I'm also a Live Drawing Society president and an LTC part-time officer for this year. I aim for safe environments, better student and staff communication, and inspiring studio culture. So if you also think that we all deserve an equally good education experience, vote for me.
Perfect, thank you, Alyssa. So we've got Anna.
Hello guys, my name is Anna Blumenkron. I'm the current student changemaker for the photography department, and my main goals are decolonization, anti-racism, increased visibility for marginalized and reduced communities, more accessible hardship fund, people to be able to access to hardship fund twice, improve our employability skills, and having better mental health services for students.
Perfect, thank you, Anna, great to hear from you. Next up, we've got Dylan.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, cool, great. Hi, I'm Dylan, my pronouns are he, him. I've been your education officer and link officer for LCC this year. I'll be rerunning this year to continue projects around decolonizing the curriculum, student empowerment, EDI, and of course responding to disparities caused by the pandemic.
Fantastic, thank you, Dylan. Next up, we've got Leon.
Hi, I'm Leon. I'm a third year student at Camberwell, and yeah, I'm running for a more compassionate educational environment, yeah, decolonizing the curriculum and especially extenuating circumstances after the COVID pandemic. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leon. You were very concise this time around. Great. Next up, we've got Rachel.
Yeah, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel, and I'm running for education officer to expand the work I've already done as an LCC student changemaker. And I believe in using this role to use my voice to empower yours and make the educational experience at UAL inclusive for all students. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. And finally, for education officer, we have Sebastian.
Hey, I'm Sebastian. I'm currently a student changemaker for the journalism course at LCC. I'm also a third-year student, and I'm running on a campaign to decolonize the university and make the education more accessible to disabled students.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sebastian. Great. So yeah, great to meet you all, and thank you for being here this evening. So yeah, I don't think we've had any questions yet. So opening it up to any attendees to pop some in the chat. So we'll start off then by asking you, what is your most important priority for the next year if you're elected? So if there's one thing you want to achieve in that time, what would it be? So first off, we will go to Alyssa.
Yeah, so I think my main goal would be inclusivity and improving the exception of different cultures and representation of different students. I think change comes from minor things that we can actually get access to and somehow change them, therefore change the main acceptance of different genres, different genders and cultures. So I would aim at this through making small changes and then making an overall change.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alyssa. Next up, we've got Anna. I will just say as well, if anyone wants me to repeat the question before they go, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know. Great. Anna.
Thank you, Toby. My main goal will definitely be decolonization, anti-racism, diversity, because if we want industries that reflect on that, we need to change their current university. If we want more women hired, if we want more people of color hired, if we want more LGBT community hired, we need to start making it within the schools so the creative industries are more diverse as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Next up, we've got Dylan.
Yeah, well, I would love to continue the work that we're already doing around decolonizing, particularly around student empowerment, like empowering the students to, be able to live out their voice. One thing that's really important right now, especially because of the pandemic, students are very concerned, and alumni, that they're not going to be able to get, degree shows, access, graduation, and I think we just need to hold the university to account on that. And that will be my continuing message next year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dylan. That was dead on 30 seconds. Next up, we've got Leon.
Yeah, I think, decolonizing the curriculum is really important. I think also extenuating circumstances from a personal point of view. I know a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of people that have really found this year really difficult, and the current systems in place aren't good enough to kind of help get people through these years. So I think to make sure there is a structure in place to support that would be something I'd be really passionate about.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leon. That's great. Next up, we have Rachel.
I'm still muted, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so my main goal also would be decolonization, actually making tangible changes to the way the courses are structured at UAL. And one of the ways I would do that would be expanding the Changemaker program across all courses and universities at UAL, not just LCC, because I've seen the change that we've been able to make at LCC just this past year. And I think expanding that would be my first step.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. That's great. And finally, we have Sebastian.
I think my main goal would be diversing the university as well with the Changemaker program, extend that to all universities, as well as making it easier to access student support and making the university a safer learning space for minority groups.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sebastian. Great. So I think we've had our first question come through in the chat. So that's from Kachinel, who we heard from earlier. And Kachinel wants to know, how will you demand justice for COVID grads? So first of all, where has my stopwatch gone? There we go. First of all, we'll go over to Alyssa.
Yes, I think the first thing that should be done, not only for this year grads, but every year from now on grads, is a better support with tutorials and going into the industry, because obviously due to COVID, everything is different right now. And some things we might have been learning for 2 or 3 years, or for some people even more, might not be applicable now. And then according to the graduate shows, I would consider a better way to show them off, not only through Instagram and the UAL websites, but maybe creating a different platform. And
I'll have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Alyssa. Next up, we have Anna.
Well, we cannot take our fingers off demanding for refunds for graduate, and definitely making sure that we have not online exhibition, but a physical exhibition within the school, and to keep on having support and extended access for graduates into the school.
Fab. Thank you, Anna. Next up, we have Dylan.
Yeah, well, I'd love to increase resources for the careers and employability support, of course, making sure that facilities access is given back to those students that have lost it. I was in meetings last week where we were talking about this very thing, making sure that learning outcomes are supported. People don't just want to finish their courses, they also want to get the skills necessary and make up lost time.
Fab. Thank you, Dylan. Next up, we have Leon.
Yeah, I think I'm really passionate about the idea of physical degree shows. I think I want a painting course, and I know how important having that physical environment reopened at some time in the summer. Extended access as well, and like Anna mentioned, I think is really important, and just listening to them as well, just like making sure that we keep that communication going, especially into the summer. I think is important.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leon. We're going to hear next from Rachel.
Yeah, I think also I'm fighting for extended access because, we can't get the time back, but we can extend the time that we can use the school and all of that to kind of get some of that back. And also just making sure that students are supported to really take advantage of blended learning while we still have to do it. And then also, making sure that the information is available to students about extenuating circumstances in the hardship fund, because I know I wasn't aware. So I think just making sure that everyone is aware of what we can get.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. That's great. And finally, we have Sebastian.
I think it's mainly extending the ability to access careers and advice services, and as well as ensuring that everybody has a physical degree. So at some point, even if it's for several years in the future, just depends when COVID allows it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sebastian. That's great. So we haven't had any more chats, any more questions in the chat yet. So I'll give you a little bit more time to pop some in there. The next question I'll ask then, just looking at my list. So a lot of you talked about COVID. So looking beyond COVID, kind of over the next academic year, once we are back in the physical spaces, what do you think will be the biggest challenges facing students, and how do you propose kind of making movements forward on that? So first off, we will go to Alyssa.
Yeah, I think the software and hardware access will still be an issue for a lot of students, as we sometimes do not get as much as we would need, especially when finishing the course and when we're still in this uncertain situation before getting into the industry and after the graduation. So I would directly focus on that. And yeah, that's what I think.
Fab. Thank you, Alyssa. Have we got Anna?
I would definitely focus in employability, because currently if you go to the school fairs, they have like a lot of really kind of lame part-time jobs. So definitely trying to attract bigger companies to hire UAL graduates and to have like bigger names to actually hiring people, so we can actually make a living doing what we want to do, and not like going to these fairs and getting like working in a restaurant. It's after we had like a proper degree.
Great. Thank you, Anna. That's fantastic. Next up, we have Dylan.
Yeah, after COVID, obviously there's going to be a lot of reparations. I mean, we don't even know when it's going to be, but definitely employability, community building events, and sort of initiatives that get back this thing we've been losing this whole time. A lot of focus on support and welfare, especially mental health, and just kind of making sure students are sane.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dylan. Next up, we have Leon.
Yeah, like Dylan was saying, I think, kind of mental health awareness, making sure that people feel on top of their studies, and the community that we lost over the last year. I think, at Campbell that I'm at, I'm sure it's the same at every campus, but that idea of feeling that you're part of a university and a degree is something I'm trying still.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leon. Oh, my stopwatch has run away with himself. There we go. Great. Next up, we've got Rachel.
Yeah. I think my focus would definitely be on just making sure that there's a focus on the support and well-being of the students when re-entering back to the school. Like, we've all been gone for so long, it's going to be a new experience in a sense going back. And I think making sure that it's supported and we have a community again.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. And finally, we have Sebastian.
I think one of the main things is mental health, and we need to ensure that the mental health team is adequately funded, so every student who needs to access it can access it without waiting 3 or 4 months as well.
That's great. Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so just having a look at the questions posed by the candidates here today. So we have a question from B, who's running for Activities Officer. And B says, since Brexit, UK universities have been removed from the Erasmus scheme. So how do you propose working to find alternative funding for study abroad programmes? Okay, so first of all, we will go to Alyssa.
Yeah, so I think it firstly should be discussed with, again, with this question of people who graduate finding jobs, is attracting more like major companies that could help people and maybe pay for their degrees, or at least partly pay for their degrees. So that will also, that will also help with this first main issue.
Great, thank you, Alyssa. Next up, we have Anna.
I'm sorry, Toby, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. So since Brexit, UK universities have been removed from the Erasmus scheme. So how do you propose finding alternative funding for study abroad programs?
Yes, I'm an international student. I'm from Mexico, and I've been benefited to be able to study in Latin America. I was also benefited to study in Asia. So I will definitely look into having more connections outside Europe. I know that Europe is a very important place to study for people within England, but I will definitely look into having a broader space and maybe going to the US, going into places in other parts of America and Asia, not only focusing within Europe.
Great, thank you, Anna. Fab. Next up, we have Dylan.
Yeah, well, I would suggest that we move towards pushing the higher ups like James Pennell to, of course, he's just joined, so he wants to do some kind of impressive things for us, so we could convince him that this is an important thing, this is what we want, and they can allocate funds towards that. Already this year, we have been doing this with EU students moving to the international status. We've been pushing for more bursaries and more funding for these students. So I'd like to continue.
Thank you, Dylan. That's great. I'm just going to shut my window because I'm getting a cold chill. There we are. Okay, fab. So next up, we have Leon.
Yeah, I think we should move towards a kind of or Swiss or American model where you kind of establish individual relationships with kind of universities across Europe. I think that should be possible. Also, just different relationships with studios and galleries around Europe. I think I did the Bauhaus project, and I'm sure that there could be lots of other initiatives to kind of, get back a hold of Europe.
Great, thank you, Leon. That's fab. Next up, we have Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an international student as well. I really understand the importance of the exchange programs. And I think first I would work, I know there's a student exchange administrator at UL, and I would work with them to kind of see who we could lobby for more funding and initiatives and get it started. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Rachel. And then we have Sebastian.
I think by building relationships up with universities and art institutions around the world, we could help ensure funding by asking them art galleries to sponsor UEA students, as well as creating scholarships of our own to fund exchange programs.
Great, thank you, Sebastian. That's fab. Okay, so has anyone that's on the attendees list got any questions? If you do, you can pop them in the chat. One thing I will ask while we're waiting for one. So some of you have kind of touched on the link between the kind of education element of UAL, but also how that comes into play with different areas. So yeah, is there any kind of way you see yourself working with the other sabbatical officers? So either activities, campaigns, or welfare. Are there any kind of joint projects that you could see yourself working on with those officers? So first up, we will go to Alyssa.
Yeah, so I would definitely want to have a campaign with an activities officer, generating more awareness of how to get to the industry and how to get a job, maybe more talks, more people with examples of how exactly it could be done. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking about.
Fabulous, thank you, Alyssa. Next up, we have Anna.
Yes, I see that a lot of campaign officers and activity officers are also really keen into decolonizing the curriculum, into making decolonizes and anti-racism one of the cores of the university. So I will definitely be working together to make that happen.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Next up, we have Dylan.
Hi. Of course, it would depend on what these officers wanted, but this year we've been incredibly collaborative, and it's been really rewarding. Picking up things where maybe you don't have time or you have a meeting clash or whatever. But one way I could see myself working with the activities officer is I'm really interested in doing society and course collaborations, which is something I did at my position in drama society in my third year. And I think it's really rewarding to be able to.
I'll have to cut you off there, I'm afraid, Dylan. Thank you. Next up, we have Leon.
Yeah, I think I could see myself working with the campaigns officer to kind of think of new lecture series and ideas of kind of ways we can improve reading lists as well. Also the welfare officer to kind of make sure we stay on top of mental health support across the whole curriculum.
Fantastic, thank you, Leon. Next up, we have Rachel.
Yeah, no, definitely that's something I'd be super excited about collaborating, because I think decolonization, you can't do that without supporting the welfare of students and making sure the mental health is a part of it. You can't do it without making sure the activities support the curriculum that is decolonized. So it's kind of all interconnected for me. So I'd be really excited to collaborate on different series and initiatives.
Fantastic, thank you, Rachel. And do we have Sebastian?
I think by working with like the campaigns officers to create campaigns for like decolonization and safe space and welfare, for like working towards better mental health, I can definitely see myself collaborating with both of them.
Fabulous, thank you, Sebastian. Okay, so next up we have a question from our very own community manager, Sharon. And Sharon wants to know how you will support our current network of 1,000 course reps at UAL. So how, as education officer, do you see yourself working with them? Great. So first up, we have Alyssa.
Yeah, so I would firstly obviously have a chat where we could pop in ideas, and I always make a separate one for only announcements, so nothing really gets lost. And then I usually make, when I work with huge groups of people, it's just forms which people complete every week, for example, so you see all changes that happen. And yeah, that's how I work with large groups of people. I think it's pretty on point.
Fantastic, thank you, Alyssa. Great, next up we have Anna.
I was a course rep of my course, and I felt sometimes that I was left alone. So I would definitely be in really close relationship with them, making sure that they can get in touch with me whenever it's needed, and sort them with more training, and also putting boundaries on what students, into what reps can do, because sometimes tutors can kind of abuse of them, not like in a proper sense of abuse, but like putting more tasks than they're actually supposed to do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anna. Next up, we have Dylan.
Yeah, definitely echoing that. Like what we've been doing this year is talking about how we're going to train them, what kind of rewards are in place, and how this can better them sort of in terms of a careers perspective. I am actually in a group chat with course reps, and I've met with many course reps this year to raise their issues with the university, bringing it to higher levels of the organization. So I think that's the best role for the education officer.
Fantastic, thank you, Dylan. Have we got Leon?
Yeah, I could see a group chat would be really important. I think regular meetings, making sure that all different courses feel like they have an equal voice, I suppose. I mean, this is but like just making sure that communication is key. I'm sure other people know more than me, but I'm sure if I was there, I'd dive in. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you, Leon. That's great. Next up, we have Rachel.
Yeah, I was also a course rep for my course, and I spent a lot of time speaking with course reps in my changemaker work. And I think I would just make sure that they know that we would be a part of a team, and I could hear their voices and raise, awareness for the issues they're hearing from students and training and meetings, and make it more of a community, I guess, so we're all connected.
Fantastic, thank you, Rachel. And finally, we have Sebastian.
I think ensuring that the training from course reps is how to create is one thing, and also it's just constant communication. I think that's definitely the way forward.
Fantastic, thank you, Sebastian. Okay, great. So we're coming up to the end of the session now for Education Officer. So again, the final thing I want to give you a chance to do is have just up to 30 seconds again to say any closing comments and kind of give a little pitch for students to vote for you. So we will kick off again with Alyssa.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just repeat that I'm going for the safe environments, great student and staff communication, and inspiring studio culture, which in my opinion will drastically improve the quality of education experience everybody gets. And I think I truly believe it should be equal for everyone. So more details of my experience and what I'm going to make can be found in my manifesto on the SU website. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you for being here. Next up, we have Anna.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone for your time. And I will definitely be the kind of education officer that it has an open door, that I will be super excited to get to meet as much people as possible. Not the kind of officer that would just disappear and you will never hear from her again. Just working together to support students, to make them empower and reach their academic potential. Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Next up, we have Dylan.
Yep, if you vote for me, I will continue doing my communication with students, trying to break down these kind of hierarchical forms of education. I really want students to see themselves represented within their course, and if they're not, how can we do that? And communicated with, just opening up that dialogue between SABs if they are truly to represent the student body, and I believe I can do that.
Fantastic, thank you, Dylan. Next, we've got Leon.
Yeah, I think, if I was voted education officer, I'd really push for a kind of compassionate approach to education. Push for greater kind of welfare and, extenuating circumstances support. And just work on the great work that's already going on and make sure that I'm in dialogue with everyone else. And just make it a really great place to be at UAL.
Fantastic, thank you, Leon. Next up, we have Rachel.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so I'm just all about communication and building relationships and community, and I want to do that through this role if elected. And I really just want to make sure that you all know that I would really use my voice to empower yours and make sure that the issues that you see that need to be raised are raised, while also working on making it an inclusive space for all students. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Rachel. And finally, we have Sebastian.
Thank you for having me. If I was education officer, I'd definitely push for a more diverse approach to education, as well as carrying on the good work that's already been started by everybody.
Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, great. So that brings to a close our Hustings for Education Officer. So thank you all so much for being here and for all your answers. And as always, students can view wider manifestos and posters for all candidates on the ArtsSU website. Fantastic, thank you guys. Next up, we have the final Hustings for Welfare Officer. So I'll just give Sharon 2 minutes to add the panelists in.
Just adding the candidates in now. Oh, sorry, my computer's playing up a bit. 30 seconds. Joy of technology. Great. Okay.
So we've got
I think I've put everyone in.
Yep, fab. Just checking off my list.
If I haven't, please do message the chat, and I will put you in straight away. Yeah, that.
Yeah, I think that's everyone. I can't see anyone else.
Great. I just put the video permissions on.
Fabulous. Yeah, so again, we're going to be starting by giving you all 30 seconds to introduce yourself. As I said before, we are recording this and we'll be popping it online afterwards to give students a chance to kind of meet you guys. So yeah, you've got 30 seconds to say a quick hello and briefly outline what your manifesto is about. We'll then go to questions, so you'll have a chance or to answer some questions from students and other candidates. And then finally, we'll give you 30 seconds to just kind of close up. And then everyone is free to go and have their dinner or a nice glass of wine. Fab. So first off, you've got 30 seconds just to say a quick hello and kind of get let anyone watching get to know you. So we'll kick off with Alex.
Hi, can you see me? Just double checking. Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Alex. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a fourth year at Camberwell studying sculpture and creative computing. I'm running for welfare officer as part of the Red Square movement slate alongside Shahada Shahril and Amber Lunt, who are running for campaign activities. As a student rep, a co-chair of Action UAL and a disabled student, I know the problems UAL students face concerning welfare and believe that all changes introduced should be student-led. UAL belongs to the students and accessibility is the key.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for being here this evening. Next up, a second, my Alexa has just gone crazy. Alexa, stop. Many apologies for that. Started telling me about Georgia the country. Great. Over to you, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Georgia. My pronouns are she, her. I'm running for welfare officer. I'm also disabled students officer and Diva Society treasurer. My main points are to improve access to mental health support in targeted or specific areas based on student feedback, meet accessibility needs for students both online and returns to campus, and work directly with students and societies to uplift underrepresented voices, because UAL tends to kind of speak for people rather than using the students we already have.
Fabulous. Thank you, Georgia. Next up, we have Helen.
Hi, my name's Helen. I'm obviously running for this welfare officer. My main goals are to hold UAL accountable, make sure that they stick to their decolonising the curriculum and representing all students, and also to improve the mental health service by cutting down counselling time, and also making the hardship fund more accessible to all students. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Helen. Next up, we have Neto.
Hi, my pronouns are he, him. I'm in the second year journalism and I'm a mature student. So my main goal is actually to bring attention, awareness for this union between the youngest and the matures, because I think we all can help each other a lot. Of course, continue the work with the COVID and everything is coming now for the new stages. And that's it. And to be here to hear what everything needed.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neto. Next up, we have Megan.
Hi guys, I'm Megan. I am a 4th year at CSM studying jewellery and I'm running for welfare, obviously. My main points are I'd really like to improve the university's mental health service. It's not good enough. We need to make it better. We need to offer more help for more people. CBT and counselling doesn't work for everyone and people should be able to enjoy their degree without the stresses of mental health. I also want to create equal opportunities for all, for POC, LGBTQ+, disabled people, as we all suffer.
Oh, I am going to have to get you off there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Megan. That's great. I will just take this time to say, because we've not had any questions yet, if any of the attendees or previous candidates want to pop a question in the chat, we can come on to that in a second. Great. So next up we have Sophie.
Mute is constantly there. Hiya, I'm Sophie, she, her, in my 3rd year at Chelsea, and my main focus is student mental health. So I feel like beyond disability services, within disability services, there's a lot to do, but beyond disability services as well, there's so much they can do to improve communication, inclusivity, course structure, accessibility, employability, that is shown to directly impact student welfare and student psychological states. So I've got a double.
I am going to have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Sophie. That's great. So yeah, great to meet you all, and thank you for being here this evening and to sitting it out until 6:30 as the last group to go. So we're going to go to questions now from students. So we have Alice asked, how do you want to begin to work on diversifying the curriculum at UAL? So first of all, we're going to go over to Alex.
So I think that diversifying the curriculum would need to involve the voices that we are referencing when we talk about diversity. So how I would do that myself is by championing these voices. I'd get people to speak on behalf of their own communities so that we can make sure that we aren't speaking for anybody. And I think that as a SPAC officer, my role wouldn't be to speak for people, it would be to raise up their voices.
Fantastic, thank you, Alex. That's great. Next up, we have Georgia.
Yeah, so I would want to use the voices that UAL already has. Within my role as disability officer, I'm working with DIVA. I've already been working on ways to amplify student voices within UAL. And UAL tends to make decisions without consulting groups of people that they're making the decisions for. So I really want to kind of work on making decisions based off feedback from students. And very similarly, I don't want to speak for students. I just want to give them a platform to speak on, and I want to raise their voices rather than speak over them.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, Georgia. That's great, thank you. Next up, we have Helen.
I think I would want to start doing that by getting more lecturers in who aren't just white men, you know, like diversifying in that sense, and also just restructuring how we learn, not letting, you know, for example, like Black African studies to be an optional part of your degree. Like, yeah, sorry, bit caught off my words there. Thanks.
That's great, thank you, Helen. Fantastic. Next up, we have Neto.
Well, I think it is important to work together with all the other officers, because I believe in education we will go together with a specific campaign and activity. So we do have a lot of initiatives already. We can improve them and bring in more attention, amplifying their voices even more now because of the COVID. We're gonna not start from zero, but we needed to bring what we have bigger.
Fantastic, thank you, Neto. That's great. Next up, we have Megan.
Hi, so I think the most important thing is we need to listen to minority voices and build a platform for them to be able to share what they think we need to do and how we best represent them. But I think an important start would be to bring in a wider range of guest lecturers and lecturers themselves. Like, I can't remember the last time I had a lecturer that wasn't a white man. So like, we need to bring in POC, we need to bring in openly disabled artists, and like, sharing their story will help other people come forward and feel like they can share their voices so we can help them amplify it.
Great, thank you, Megan, that's fantastic. And finally, for this question, we have Sophie.
So yeah, I think education is key with students. I think Mary Evans, I don't know if people know her, has been doing a lot of work with the BLM talks, which is fantastic. But I think, as Helen said, they're not mandatory currently, which is an issue. Also staff understanding. I think there's a lot of education and sort of training staff could do to really engage with the student body. You know, complaints procedures tend to stop at a very low point in the process. Kind of people talk about something, they say that
I'm gonna have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Sophie. Fab. Okay, great. Let's have a look at the questions list. So next up, we have a question from Amber. So kind of what are your manifesto points and how do you plan to implement them? So should we go first to Alex?
Yeah, so my manifesto is mainly based around a three-pronged accessibility plan. So that involves academic, for which I would propose a university-wide buddy system for students, putting them in touch with other students whose academic and practical interests align, therefore giving them a network of support and a framework of ideas. Physical, every room in the UAL in any UAL building, including any that are like rented for shows, need to be fully accessible. And then mental, I'd work towards improving mental health services across UAL, from training for staff.
I've got to cut you off, I'm afraid there, Alex. Thank you. Fab. Next up we have Georgia.
Yeah, so I want to work on more targeted and accessible mental health support for students. So I'd want to do that by doing a survey and contacting students in different ways to actually find out what would be valuable to them. I also want to work on accessibility needs, even just in things with form filling, you know, say for hardship funds. These things, they're just not, they've been revised, but they're just not very handy they're not good for students basically. And then I also want to work on diversifying the curriculum by using student voices.
There, I'm afraid. Thanks, Georgia.
Okay.
Next up we have Helen.
I want to make the hardship fund more accessible by creating drop-in sessions so that someone has a helping hand when they're filling out the forms if they have any questions, so they don't feel as alone. I want to improve the mental health service by cutting counselling wait time, because I think it's just too long really at the moment. And again, having drop-in sessions so people have someone to talk to. It's not as intimidating, just like them on their own trying to get the services that they need. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Helen. You were dead on 30 seconds there. Brilliant. Fab. Next up we have Neto.
Yes, I think it's very important to have a specific day where people can actually contact you. It is not either in the drop-in would be like available online, at least for the coming months, for X amounts of hours, because I think now with the online thing, we are more closer together in terms of colleges, but once we go back, we're going to start to split this again. So online also going to still be very important to keep us together, listen, everybody needs.
Great, thank you, Neto. That's fantastic. Next up, we have Megan.
Yeah, so my main point is we need to increase funding for the mental health service. Funding will mean we can hire more therapists and counsellors. That will get the wait time down. I also want to bring new therapies to CSM so we can help a wider range of people. That comes from talking to mental health advisors, those who are suffering, asking what they need, what therapies we need to make their lives better. I also think we need to educate our tutors on mental health and disabilities and how to treat people, make them read our ISAs, train them.
I cut you off there, I'm afraid, Megan. That's fast, thank you. Okay, and last up we have Sophie.
So I think my main focus is to match up UAL's actions with its students' values, because I think there's a real disparity there currently. So I definitely agree funding for mental health services is key, and for funding. But you know, we've got this £250,000 that it doesn't actually say when it was introduced to counselling services by the SU, which is a massive step, but I haven't seen that reflected in waiting times, in the type of counsellors. You know, there's a very middle class white type of counsellor currently.
I'm afraid. That's fantastic, thank you. You've all got a lot to say in this group, which is really, really fantastic. These are some really fully fledged answers, so thank you all. Okay, so next up we have a question from B. So that's, how do you propose helping international students? So I see Alex has a drink, so I'm just going to give her a second. Okay, fab, over to you, Alex, when you're ready.
Yeah, so I would mental health support and support for students who don't have disabled students allowance, because that can be difficult to get access to as international students without having GPs in this country, stuff like that. So better support for those students, as well as help with visas and hardship funds for international students being in the Action UAL demands, which I will continue to fight for.
Fantastic, thank you, Alex. Next up we have Georgia.
Yeah, so international students can tend to be ignored by UAL for their needs. I want to listen to any concerns in terms of mental health access, you know, especially for people that English might be their second language. Mental health support might not be very accessible to them in UAL. And similarly, working on access to things like hardship funds and extra support for international students, especially during times like COVID and things, when students might be paying a lot more for tests.
I have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. Thank you, that's great. Okay, next up we have Helen.
I want to make sure that the disability allowance, the hardship funds and the mental health service is just as accessible to international students as it is for home students. And I also would want to set up a proofreading service. So on an academic level, the international students have someone to come to just proofreading CVs, essays, because I know academic support don't do that. If English isn't your first language, they're not a proofreading service. So I'd want to set up something like a new system for that.
Great, thank you, Helen. That's fantastic. Next up, we have Neto.
Well, I quite think it's similar, right? Giving a space where the international students can actually come to us and find the right answers, because I do believe, I'm not going to be like the devil's advocate and go against, but I do believe we have a lot of resources from what I'm, you know, every time I needed, I was able to find it, but I had to look myself. So if you have a door where they can actually come to be guided, and that's what I'm proposing. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Neto. Next up, we have Megan.
Yeah, so with international students, I think UAL treats them a lot like a business rather than students, and I don't think that's fair. I think that's something we need to address. We need to reduce their fees to an equal level. Also, it's making everything accessible to them. If it's not your first language, you might need more help. And I don't think you should have to go out and hunt to find that. I think it should be offered to each international student. Like, they should be offered help with their visas, offered help with forms, and they do deserve to have access to hardship fund and mental health services just as much as us home students do as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Megan. That's great. And then we have Sophie.
I think I've heard from a lot of international students that really struggle to get the correct diagnosis within their own country and therefore really struggle with English GPs, which massively affects their ability to access services. I would also say that social spaces are a massive impact. You know, I worked at the darkroom bar before it was closed down for good. And that was a really useful space where people could just mingle. And I feel like we really lack that currently at UAL. So any funding that we can put towards that sort of social...
And I have to cut you off there again. Thanks, Sophie. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like every group has had such a cohesive energy. It's been fantastic. Okay, fab. Next up, we have a question from Alice. Alice wants to know, what is it that inspired you to run in the first place? So first up, we'll go again to Alex.
That's a really nice question. I'd say, so I worked for a year on the success of the SU, and that really helped me understand the impact that the SU can have on university, as well as I saw a lot of the issues that students have. This was starting working with Action UAL, being the co-chair of Action UAL, I've seen a lot of the types of issues that the university has put on for students and providing welfare that I want to change.
Fab, thank you, Alex.
I wanted to run because I experienced a lot of stress within my time at university, but due to kind of UAL's short-sighted decisions, and that's even from a place of privilege compared to other students within UAL. And working with DIVA and as Disabled Students Officer, it's really helped me access voices that I hadn't heard from before within UAL. And I wanted to run for this to represent those voices and help those voices have a platform that I might be able to access.
Fab.
Sorry, are you ready for me? I couldn't hear very well.
Yeah, no worries. Whenever you're ready.
Sorry. It really infuriates me seeing how UAL run themselves as a business, obviously, at the expense of us. And I want action like from that anger, you know, and I think I'd be good at this role because I have the organization skills, and I also am able to talk to people, really get to the crux of like what is wrong, and then go away with that, and I'll be the person to make it happen. And I just think I'd be good at doing that.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I do need you to repeat. I couldn't hear the question at all.
Yep, sorry, it's probably my mic. Where am I? Sorry, my computer's gone crazy. So this question is, what inspired you to run? So why are you running for this role?
Okay, so initially I ran because I felt I was underrepresented, and I really feel like I have a lot to gain for everybody, from the younger people, but the maturest people also had a lot to give. And even for the voices, because we don't get this before, so we are learning a lot together, but we know how to amplify that. You know, I have a lot of experience in organizing things. That's what I do. I'm old enough, right? Sorry for that, but yes, is the experience out of the campus. So, but I'm starting over, and I need
you off there, I'm afraid. That's right. Thank you. Fab. Next up, we have Megan.
Yeah, so what inspired me was seeing what myself and my peers have been going through recently in terms of how tutors treat you when you try to talk to them about your mental health and get them to understand, and how they're just like, I don't want to hear it, just put it on your extenuating circumstance form. Like, that's not good enough. And like, if you tell a mental health service that you're having intrusive thoughts, you shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks for it. And it's just seeing people suffer makes me really angry, and I'm very passionate about just trying to solve that the best I can.
I feel awful chopping people off when they're speaking about these topics. Okay, and finally we have Sophie. Oh, you're on mute, Sophie. It happens to the best of us.
As a currently disabled student who previously had to drop out of her degree due to mental health issues, I feel like I really want to help students who are in the same position currently, who actually are in completely avoidable situations. There are also some really key issues within UAL that have made me really angry recently, you know, transphobia, racism, like very blatant mishaps that UAL should be able to avoid at this point.
Fantastic. You know. Thank you, Sophie. Oh, great. Fab. So we've got time for, I think, one more question, and then we'll give you all your 30 seconds to do just kind of like a summary and round up. So for the final question, what changes would you like to see UAL implement to support people with disabilities? So first up, we will go to Alex.
Hi, yeah, so as a disabled I'd be lobbying to get every single room in UAL to be
Alex, I think you're just having a bit of trouble with your mic.
Is this okay?
That's a little better, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what it might be my internet.
No worries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah, I was saying, as a disabled student, I know like all these struggles that happen in UAL, and I would want all rooms to be fully physically accessible, including the rooms that are booked by UAL. I know this isn't always the case, as Eleanor, current activities officer, has been working really hard for 2 years, done amazing work, and I would want to carry on that work.
Fab. Thank you, Alex. Next up, we'll go to Georgia.
So I want to firstly start by including disabled students in discussions about disabled students. Working with DIVA, I know that they're often overlooked within discussions. And as part of that, I want to introduce mandatory training for staff, for disability training and inclusion. That students experience a lot of daily ableism at UAL, be that with accessibility on site or with talks, lecturers.
Gonna have to cut you off there, I'm afraid. Thanks, Georgia. Fab. Next up, we've got Helen.
I would want to put more funding into the disability allowance, and again with these drop-in sessions, give someone a person to help them with these with filling out the forms, becoming familiar with that service so it doesn't feel as daunting. And like you guys have said already, Camberwell is step free, but that isn't enough. I think everywhere should be step free, like all the colleges, I mean. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Helen. Next up, we have Neto.
Yes, I do think we needed to work together with the campaigns to increase the amount of visibility for the difficulty the disabled people actually have, because this way everybody gonna actually feel. Also, people needed to feel to understand what the other ones have to go normally every day. So I think is increase the training and more, awareness, visibility as a whole, bring people together, not to just make them see from far. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neto. Next up, we have Megan.
Yeah, so one of my main points is bringing mandatory training to all tutors, all staff on how to help people with disabilities understand what they go through on a day-to-day issues too, as Georgia was saying, to avoid ableism, because it happens every single day. And students need to feel safe going to their first port of call, which is their tutors, and discussing issues. You need to improve the accessibility of all the buildings. Like, if the lifts are broken, how do you expect someone who, say it's CSM, needs to get to the photography studio if all the lifts are broken? Like, that can't happen. It needs to be better, and we need to make sure all.
Fantastic. Sorry, Megan, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Thank you so much. And finally, for this question, we have Sophie.
So funding, of course, is absolutely key. But aside from that, conversation outside of disabled circles, but led by disabled people, I think is super important. Education and training for tutors who don't necessarily know how to go about those conversations, despite the fact that everyone experiences a degree of ill mental health. Like, we all go through it at some point. So I think it's really important to recognise that and to bring that into the discourse of the university as a whole.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sophie. That's great. Okay, so yeah, thank you all. You've really had a lot to say in this group, and it's been really fantastic hearing kind of how fleshed out your ideas are, and how you've thought not only of the wider things you want to achieve, but how you're going to go about achieving them. So finally, before we close up for the evening, I'm just going to give you each 30 seconds to just say any closing comments to your peers. So we'll start again with Alex.
So my manifesto focuses on making UAL fully accessible by tackling these three main areas. So academic accessibility, physical accessibility through like forums for disabled students, and training based off of those forums, mental health support, while also holding three key principles at the centre of everything I do: transparency from UAL, diversity and action. I will continue to fight for all the action matters put forward by Action UAL. So if you follow me on Alex Greer for welfare.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
We have Georgia.
So I really want to focus on student-led ideas, campaigns and discussions within mental health accessibility in general, and diversifying the curriculum within UAL. I have lots of experience within my roles of talking to the SU, talking to UAL, interacting with students, and starting up campaigns and lobbying for change. So yeah, vote for me if you want a platform to speak on, because I'd like to help you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Georgia. That's great. Have we got Helen?
Hiya, thank you everyone for coming, and like to the other people running, just your ideas have been really interesting, and makes me think if I lose, I know we'll be in safe hands in the student union. But yeah, just vote for me. Your voice will be heard. And if you have any questions about my policies that I've talked about, or any questions, please get in contact. I just think the conversation should be continued after this election. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Helen. Have we got Neto?
Yes, I just want to thank you, everybody, to be here, to allow me to be here, to give me this opportunity. I really felt like strange in putting me forward, but I think I have a lot to give you, which, all my skills. And I would love to be able to actually have your confidence vote to join and to keep this journey at least for the next years. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Neto. We've got Megan.
Hi, so my main manifesto points is improving the mental health service, increasing funding, increasing support, increasing accessibility, but also educating people on mental health and disability, making sure that everyone is treated with kindness. I want to build a better, happier, healthier and more accessible UAL. If you have any more questions, follow us on @VoteAskTac on Instagram and we can get back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Megan. That's great. And finally, we have Sophie.
So as welfare officer, I would build on current officers' work to make UAL the accepting and transparent space it claims to be to the outside world, and make it very clear that their swanky publicity doesn't have any help for current students that are struggling. So I want to follow up key promises of extra funding and funding in the right way with conversation with students. And I would love to talk to anyone who has any questions. I'll put my Instagram, I guess, in the comments, just in case anyone wants to have a chat.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sophie. Okay, yeah, so just want to close up by saying a huge thank you to our welfare candidates and also to all the candidates for the other roles who have spoken this evening. It's been absolutely fantastic for me to see how passionate you all are and how deeply you've thought out kind of what you want to achieve and your ideas. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing voting closes next Tuesday at 3 p.m. So really looking forward to seeing kind of your ongoing campaigns over the next week. I'm sure I speak for all the candidates when I do say that if there are any students who have been here today who have any further questions for them, they'd be more than happy to kind of chat with you about their campaigns and about what they do in the roles if you wanted to reach out. So yeah, this will be posted on our Arts SU election candidate hub tomorrow. So any students can come along and you can point them in this direction and they're able to meet you guys through the hustings. So yeah, thank you all so much for your time. It's been great kind of chatting with you all. And I hope you have a really great evening and a really great next campaigns week.
Thank you.